Good morning, Predicted Trades family. Hope everyone's doing well. Oh, let's see, we had a bit of a boring day yesterday. Oh, we hit those puts. Oh, well, let's just say ES had a nice pump going into open, but ran into a key level, 36.68, and the top of some 1 hour, 30-minute squeezes. With a quick rejection like we see time and time again. It's kind of hard to open in a squeeze top or bottom and just take off through it. We kind of got that on Friday, but with that data, economic data, we dumped quickly into those squeeze bottoms and then just dumped at open. So there's an example, right? And yesterday, opening in those squeeze tops, kind of our first play is to short it down to the bottom. And that's kind of what we got. We found that the puts that we were watching with our system were holding their open level and their beast numbers, right? We got that first dump, and even on little bounces, those puts continued to hold those levels and provide us another entry. And even yet again, midday, Richie called out another put entry that went over a double. From there, we got a nice bounce right back to our zone at 36.21, 36.39. Basically what we held overnight the previous night, right? Last night, we dumped out of that zone and made it down to this support shaded zone that I have had drawn and that we keep reviewing right around that 3600, and it spans from 35.87 to 35.96. Yesterday we did tap 3600, and we are back above it, pre-market. We have some squeezes that are stacking up, 30-minute, 1 hour, and 2 hour, all around us. The bottom of all those stacked together just below that support zone that we pulled into and out of overnight. So before we jump into where we're going, let's take a quick look at economic calendar. Not a lot today. We have some 5-year inflation expectations from New York Fed at 11 a.m. and a Fed speaker at noon. And then tomorrow we have producer price index at 8:30 before the bell, a couple of Fed speakers, and then FOMC minutes coming out at 2 p.m. Directly the next morning we have CPI. Expecting some volatility, right, with these two key metrics coming out, one right after the other. We have seen silly instances where we push up on FOMC real hard, and then we engulf the whole thing back down on the CPI that can come out the next day, right? We don't normally get this every month, but if you go back and look, sometimes we do, and it gets very volatile. So, not saying that we are going to pump on FOMC. Sometimes they just use these as reasons to do some quick plays with the extra volatility and extra momentum. So definitely something to keep in mind. We have our jobless claims, and then Friday we have some retail sales, some inflation data. Also, Friday we have a lot of earnings, mainly in finance. Let me go grab that. In our main section under earnings. So, we have some, a little bit on Thursday as well, before the bell, with TSM, C, and Delta, and Dominoes and whatnot. But Friday, the big one is Wells Fargo, JPM, Morgan Stanley, Citi, United Health, UNH. So we got a little XLV, a little healthcare coming out on Friday. UNH, one of the big names, right? And PMC, First Republic Bank, Bancorp. So finance is kicking off on Friday. So it could be an interesting and volatile week. We got FOMC Wednesday, and then CPI Thursday, and then a bunch of banks reporting Friday before open. So it's definitely going to be interesting. I can see a case for a potential big rally. Well, a rally back to the mean, and I can see a case to just keep slipping. So, where are we going today? We are below our little zone here, 36.21, 36.39. So those are the first targets at the top of these 30-minute and 1-hour squeezes. And then at the top of the 2-hour squeeze, our 36.68 that we rejected pre-market yesterday. So likely going to be dealing with these levels as we try to push up. And they are the levels to beat right now. The daily 8 has caught up with about 36.80. The daily 15 right at about 3,700. The daily 21 at 37.67, where we sold off from on Friday's economic data that came out. So those are targets to the upside. If we do take a dip, we have that 3,600, yesterday's low, the overnight low down in this zone of support. And it looks like we hit about 35.85 at the low. If I zoom in, it should, there we go. Yeah, we got about 35.85 at the low there. Come on. There we go. If we start to give out that 3,600, 35.85, our next key target, 35.71, which I believe is current low of year. Yep. So we're right at it. Almost tapped at pre-market. Let's see if we want to go give it a test during the cash session. We also have a daily Keltner sitting there at about 35.78. So let's see if we can hold that low of year if we do come down for a test, which could cause a bounce and a bit of a, double bottom. And if it does create a double bottom and start to rally, it would be a goal to try to get to that 21 trend lines that we rejected and the neckline of what would be a W. But if we start to slip through and hit that and can't hold that 35.71, next key target, 35.41, and below that, our third Keltner is sitting down pretty much at our next big key level, 34.75. Obviously, we got that psych level, 3,500, 35.25 to deal with if we do keep slipping for new low of year. So we have targets upside and targets downside on ES. Let's see if we can hold this zone of support today. To me, that would at least show that, we slipped it a little bit for new low of year, but we held, and started that big reversion to the mean. So let's see if it can do it again. That would at least give me some, conviction to another potential bullish move. But right now, obviously, we're weak. We keep slipping. Not expecting to take off today. We have FOMC tomorrow. So just going to play it safe and play the ranges that we are given today with our 30-minute, 1-hour, 2-hour squeeze. Basically, a lot of the same levels from yesterday. So, On to NQ. Have our POC started to step down? No, not really. Okay. So, NQ did set a new low of year. I'm not going to mark it. It's, basically the overnight pre-market low. And now we're moving back out of this little zone at 10,890 and 942. So let's see if we can hold this zone and pre-market low and start to work our way back up. First target, that 11,068. You can see we dumped through it. We rejected it on this wick. We rejected it on that wick. So that is the first key target. If we can get back above psych level 11,000. Beyond that 11,200, where we have key level, daily Keltner, daily 8, all sitting together, which is just outside of this 2-hour squeeze. If we keep slipping, next big key level, 10,650. And obviously some psych levels, 800, 700. On to the ready. Did not get down for a new low of year quite yet. Is coming close to this 56, which we settled at all of that end of quarter week, right? And even the sell-off that did set new lows on that end of quarter Friday for ES, the ready held up, got its reversion to the mean. Now trying to somewhat establish higher low, but we, just like the market, slipped down for new lows on the week overnight. So let's see if those new lows can hold. We're already popping back up. First target is to get back above 1,700 and up to 1,720. 715, 718, 1715, 1718-ish, where the daily 15, daily 8 sit at the top of this 2-hour squeeze. If we start to slip out, obviously we're going to come to this 56, but if we can get going, looking to get up to this daily 8 and 15, and if we can even get going past that and yesterday's highs, looking to get up into some of Friday's highs, with the daily 21 sitting at that 1750 psych level. YM. Rejected that 315, got back above it a little yesterday, sold off into close back below it. Now we came down and tested that 29,000 overnight. Looks like we printed a little bit below that, about 50 points, but back now we're back above. So let's see if that 29,000 psych level overnight low or this 850. So we got 29,000, 29,950, 28,950, 28,850 as a few key levels of support if we do take a dip during the cash session. Below those, we've got the low of year at about this 650-ish, right? And our third Keltner is pretty much down at 28,000. Should we slip further this week? If we can get going to the upside, looking to get through that 315, get back to this 640, 650 if you want to call it. Back at some of Friday's highs, and then beyond that, psych level 30,000 and the daily 21. Apple did a great job holding that 138.8 yesterday. Even with the market gapping down and setting new lows overnight, Apple still holding above that 138.8. So, as long as we can continue to hold this zone of support at the bottom of these squeezes, looking for Apple to try to make a run back up to our squeeze tops at about 141.5, 142, and then get back to our key level at 144.5 and the daily 8. And there's a daily Keltner there, stacked on top of each other at about that 143.5, let's call it. So, looking to get up to this zone, and if we can travel past that this week, back to the next zone where the daily 15 and daily 21 sit. If we start to give out 138, I do have another zone below. That would be the next target zone. It is a little bit past third Keltner, which sits at about 134. So, but let's see if our zone can continue to hold, and if Apple can wake back up to the upside. AMD and chips, 56, big key level on AMD. If you don't know, go back and look at COVID. The lows we got down to, when we got to 56, it was a wall for a long time. Then we finally broke through. Now we're back at that 56, so it should provide support. Not saying it's time to long chips. They are beat up. AMD just reported 1 billion revenue forecast loss or whatever. So let it find its feet, but I would assume for now that we could see it settle at 56 as they accumulate for a potential run back up. But going to take a break on them. Chips are not getting the love. I mean, a decent bounce yesterday, right? When the market was still slipping, chips got a decent bounce up. So, a little bit of relative strength starting to pop up. Like I said, 56 pretty key. Expecting us to hold it. If we start to break it, it's going to get a little ugly, but we are, past third Keltner. One of the only names past third Keltner, so we should see some kind of relief pop before heading lower. Amazon. Slipped down with the market, caught an okay bounce. We're right back at the lows. Let's see if yesterday's low can continue to hold around 12.5. Cycle level 12. With at the bottom of these squeezes, we're looking to get back up to some of yesterday's highs, 115, 116, at the top of this 2 hourly squeeze, sorry. Past that, the daily 15 and daily 8, which are at 117, 116 and a half-ish. And the daily 21 up at 120, if we can actually reverse the ship and start to push back up. If we lose 112, going to 110, well, 111, 110, the second Keltner sits, and that third Keltner down at about 106. BA, nice and strong yesterday morning, ran into squeeze tops and brought it right back to hold the daily 8 and daily 15. Slip below pre-market, but already back above. Let's see if BA continues to try to remain strong and at least remain above 130. You can see it made a nice push. Did not sell back down with the market. It's holding up. So, some great relative strength. Let's see, BA can push, stay above this 130, push back to yesterday's highs around 135, 135 and some change. And we got the daily 21 just a hair past yesterday's highs. We start to lose that 130, then we're going to come back and test some of these lows around 128. But yeah, some nice relative strength here. Cat, also with some relative strength, did pull back with the market, got a nice popper right back up. And with a slight down day from where it opened and then closed. Let's see, it's printing up near right around here, so slight gap down, but let's see if it can continue to hold, squeeze bottoms around 175, make pushes to 180, 182, and we have that daily 50 at about 183.5. But just like BA, made a nice push up and is staying above the mean. So some relative strength. Coin. Ooh. Coin. Trying to make some moves pre-market. Congrats if you did pick up some calls yesterday on coin. Basically, just stayed in a 1.5 point range, it looks like, maybe 2 points, but starting to break out of those squeezes back above these moving averages. Obvious goal is to get to that daily 50 and recent highs. Spanning from 74 to 76 and some change. And if it can get past that, up to 80, where that second Keltner sits. Well, let's see, they could just pull the rug and send it right back into this range, or to test the daily 21. Around 69, 68.5 where the daily 8 is. So if we do have a dip, looking for that to hold and then make a run back up. So might be worth having coin on your radar today. Google. Gapping down. So a little relative weakness, had an okay pop yesterday, but then sold right back down near the lows. So definitely not proving to be strong to the upside right now, and kind of on a trajectory to maybe get back to this 96, which was the floor at the end of the quarter. So right now the goal is to get back through into yesterday's highs around 99 at this daily 15, daily 8, and to push past that to cycle level 100, and then the daily 21 at 101.5. But we do have this hourly squeeze, so we could just stay contained in that today. We start to roll over and take out 97 and overnight lows, likely coming back to this 95.5, where that next Keltner sits right near our low of 95 and some change. GS. Made it to that a little bit below, actually, that 300 yesterday. Bounced at that 298 at squeeze bottoms. Looking for that 298, 300 to hold today and start to send it back up to 305 to get through the daily 8 and 15. Past that, 310. The daily 21 sits. But it could just stay in these squeezes. Looks like it's got a 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour. So could just stay in between these squeezes from 298 to that 304. If we start to give out that 298 and market is slipping today, then 295 psych level and 292 where that next Keltner sits. JPM, pulling up on the lows from the end of the quarter. Actually printed a new low. Let's see if they start to rotate into it with earnings on Friday, or if they just let it keep slipping. That third Keltner down near psych level 100, near that second. We're currently near that second Keltner around 103.5. If we can work our way up back to that daily 8, near yesterday's highs around 307, 307.5-ish. Meta had an interesting pop in the morning and then took it right back down and gapping down. A little weakness in XLC. Had a decent bounce midday. So let's see if that buying interest comes in at open. Since we'll be opening near those lows, wouldn't be surprised for a quick dip and then back up. or if they just keep letting XLC slip. If we keep slipping to the downside, psych level 130 and then 126.5 where the third Keltner sits. If we can get going to the upside, looking to get back to 134. Yesterday's highs around 136, and these moving averages above, kind of around 138. Microsoft was very weak yesterday, like leading the downside charge. Caught an okay bounce back to this 230 psych level and that daily Keltner. Looks like we held yesterday's low and these overnight prints. Let's see if we can get back above 230. Try to make our way back up to this 232.86. If we keep rejecting 230, coming back to test these overnight lows, yesterday's lows, and this next key level at 225.25. Past that next key level is 222.5, where that third Keltner sits on Microsoft. Netflix, decent bounce in the morning, came back and held above open for another good push. And already held above that same open from yesterday, pre-market, and starting to push again. So some relative strength here at Netflix, building up some energy, with the goal of trying to get back through 230, 232 up to these daily moving averages, which span from 233 to 235-ish. And then if we can get past that, psych level 240, and then 245, right near the highs in the last couple of weeks. But if we start to give out 226 in yesterday's open, about 225.5, we could be coming back to test this 221.75-ish, where this daily Keltner sits, and psych level 220, 218 at the bottom of this daily squeeze. Nvidia made it down to that 114, holding pre-market. Let's see if it continues to hold and starts to send it back up. Looking to get to 118, that last rejection point. 120 psych level where we rejected from at open, and then back to 125 where the daily 8 sits and the daily 15. 21 near that 130. If we start to give out 114, coming down to 110 at this third Keltner down. QQQ. I got down and set new lows yesterday in pre-market. You could even make a zone of support from overnight lows and yesterday's lows. Looking for that to hold around 263.5, 264-ish. Looking for that to hold, start to send us back up. Goal of getting to 268, where we rejected midday yesterday. 270, where we rejected at open. And then past that, back to this like 275, this zone above where the daily 8 sits. If we roll back and lose yesterday's low and the overnight lows, these squeeze bottoms, then likely going to that 260, 258, where the third Keltner to the downside sits. I'm not interested in Roku. Go to Snow. Go to this. Snow has made it back and filled that earnings gap, finally and officially. So could start to set up a potential long here soon. Now that we've made it back to where we gapped up on earnings, you could see it pick up and get back. Gonna let it find its feet. It is at the bottom of a daily squeeze, so looking for that to hold. And, you know, maybe breaking over 160 is a good point to get in for that upside movement. But just going to keep a side eye on it as a good potential long. SPX, looks like we're going to be gapping down about nothing. Kind of opening near flat. Yesterday, SPX got down to that key level that we have been covering as the next target, that 35.87. Gave that a tap and caught a bounce. It's going to be opening above it. So let's see if we can hold 3600 at 35.87 and start to make our way back to that 36.45 we rejected at open. And if we can get past that, 36.80 we rejected on Friday, where that daily 8 and daily Keltner are catching up to. If we start to lose that 35.87, come on. Come on, Toss, don't freeze on me. There we go. If we start to lose that 35.87, you know, we've got 35.50 psych level, and then 35.23, the next big key SPX level I got. With that third Keltner sitting just below it. And psych level 3500. So if we can't hold up to this level, we could start to slip down to these next key ones. SPY. Back over 360. Pre-market. We've got that 362, 15, 17, or just call it 362, where we rejected midday as the upside target. We could reject there and come back. You know, looking for 358, kind of yesterday's lows. 356 and a half-ish, the overnight lows, to be a zone of support if we do slip back down. If we do make that slip back down and hold, we got to get back through 360, 362 to get to 365. If we start to lose that zone of support, psych level 355 just below that, and then 350 where that third Keltner, the downside, sits. And you can see that recent low was 355. So those are the next targets to the downside if we keep slipping. Tesla, 219, very key level. Held it pre-market, held it on the dip to retest that pre-market low, and just consolidated up there. As long as we hold above that 218, 219, it could set up for a nice long back from this third Keltner to try to get back to second Keltner, daily 8, yada yada. If we start to lose this 218, 219, the next really big key level is 200 that we might slip down to. I covered this yesterday in prep, but if you go back on a weekly 3-year chart, you'll see 200 big key level of support. UVXY. Talked about yesterday, if we're going to slip in the market, let's see this get right back above 13 and get through the pre-market high. That's what we got yesterday. Now, looks like we're going to be opening near that pre-market high. Well, let's see if we're going to get continued upside on the bounce that we're getting pre-market. We will see UVXY give up this yesterday's pre-market high, drop down to and through 13, and start to make its way to yesterday's lows, and this 12.5, kind of near the bottom of the squeeze. But if we are going to roll back over, potentially set some new lows in the market, we'll likely see UVXY hold 13, get back above 13.5, and try to make its way to 13.8 where that daily 200 sits. And that psych level 14. VIX. We held that 32.5 yesterday, made our way up to 33.5, then back down. Looks like we're going to be opening right in between. So for continued upside on this pre-market bounce, looking for VIX to get down to that 32.5, push through it to yesterday's lows at 32, and maybe just continue on down to 31.5, where this daily 8 sits. But if we're going to roll back over, we'll likely catch a bounce at yesterday's lows around this 32.5. Make our way back to 33.5 and maybe even beyond to 34.5, where that next Keltner sits in the top of this daily squeeze. We also have our next big key level at 35.3-ish on VIX. But I like this daily squeeze going into FOMC and everything. Can we tear through it? Absolutely, but it could be interesting if VIX keeps rejecting it and rolling over. We could see a bounce. A lot of things are down, near their third Keltner, second Keltner. We did get a reversion of the week, reversion to the mean last week. We could get another one this week. Not saying there's a ton of reason to go up right now, but they might just take any reason to go up. But we could just stay at these elevated VIX levels, above 32, below 35, and still keep slipping. So that's it for today. Hopefully this was helpful for everybody. One little thing I would note. During the cash session yesterday, we rejected this 30-minute and 15-minute MAs. Overnight, the 15-minute kept pushing us down. We are starting to get above that 15-minute and 30-minute MA pre-market. We did kind of do that yesterday and then gave right out. So that can be some of your signs for, we're going back to revisit pre-market lows if we can't hold those MAs and we reject them on retests, right? Now that we are above them, if we have a little dip, looking for them to hold, so looking to hold above 3607-ish. If we go below that, we are below our MAs and they can reject and send us to make new lows. So just one thing to check as we track those multi-time frame MAs. The 1 and 2 hour, our 4 hours up at 36.95. 2 hours are near that 36.68. And this 30-minute one is near that 36.39. So now those MAs lining up with these key levels. A rejection of those key levels is also rejecting MAs, reclaiming it, same thing. So now you can see the key targets I gave us to the upside also are intraday moving averages. So good luck to everybody today. Take it easy. We do have FOMC tomorrow. Save some ammo. Take some shots today. Keep it tight. And we'll see everybody in chat. Thanks for tuning in.